The next subject is something that is highly sensitive, without question, particularly in the black community, because when you hear people talk about the qualifications of black folks, obviously that is something that'll raise an eyebrow or a red flag per se in the eyes of a lot of people, especially myself, and absolutely positively, without question, my next guest. Recently, Mr. Charlie Kirk, conservative, founder of the conservative group Turning Point USA, made some comments about the qualifications of black folks, particularly when it comes to pilots flying in the airwaves along with other things. And obviously Candace Owens, noted conservative analyst and critic, dare I say even that, she definitely had her stuff to say as well. My next guest is somebody that I was interested in talking to about this. He's an award-winning journalist, columnist, and commentator. Also the host of the daily YouTube show, Roland Martin, Unfiltered. Obviously, that focuses on news, politics, culture, entertainment, social justice, and more. With more than 1.2 million subscribers, he's been called the voice of black America. And I can tell you, he's one of the preeminent voices in the black community. Make no mistake about it. My buddy, the one and only Roland S. Martin, on the show with me right now. What's going on, Roland? How are you, man? How's everything?
All good. Glad to be here.
Man, good to have you here. Before I even step further, I'm sure you heard about what Charlie Kirk had to say. You heard a nugget of what Candace Owens had to say. But let me play for you what the one and only Candace Owens had to say, piggybacking off of Charlie Kirk's assertions. Listen up.
But unfortunately, that is the reality of what happens when it comes to DEI. And what he is remarking on is true. I would be terrified if I got onto a plane and I saw a woman flying the plane. And I know that we have the United CEO saying that he just wants to fulfill a quota. He just wants there to be more women and wants there to be more black people. And he's not concerned at first with qualifications. That is something that should alarm all of us, guys, honestly.
Roland, before I even ask you the question, let me piggyback off of that to make sure that I'm giving proper context to her comments, because after Charlie Kirk said this, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. She follows up by saying, I said the exact same thing on this show just a couple of weeks ago. I remarked that now, when I even am watching a commercial, if I see a commercial and I see a black person, a Hispanic person, an Asian person, my thought process is, did they just get this because of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, for those that don't understand what those letters mean? I no longer think the person is qualified. She said, it makes me upset that that's my thought process when I see a commercial and when I see a movie. Is this person actually even a good actor, or are they just checking a box? But unfortunately, that is the reality of what happens when it comes to DEI, and what is remarking on is true. Your thoughts, Roland Martin. Give it to me.
First and foremost, these people have no idea, no real understanding of what DEI is. But understand what the goal is. What you have is, and this is not recent, what it is to sully any African American or person of color, or even white women who are coming into these positions. We have been a nation. The nation was built for white men, white male landowners. And so there's been this constant fight for equality, for freedom. What did MLK say in his speech, April 3rd, 1968 at Mason Temple, the night before he was killed? Be true to what you put on paper. And so what you have now is you have folks who are scared to death of how America is changing. By 2043, America is going to be a minority of whites, majority people of color. And so folks are freaking out. They're freaking out because this is about power. It's about money. And so what you've always had is, if you go back to the Black Freedom Movement, 1955 to 1968, King's assassination, affirmative action, when Nixon comes into the White House, Arthur Fletcher, they put that in place. Remember, LBJ gave a speech on that at Howard University before King was killed. And so it was, affirmative action. Well, we also know the greatest beneficiary of affirmative action has been white women. So they've always qualified. So they never use the qualified when speaking to somebody white. They assume they're qualified. But when it's anybody black or Latino or Asian, Native American or woman, are they qualified? Are they qualified? Now, you and I have been in the media business, and you and I know some white folks who have been hired, and we sitting here like,
yeah.
How the hell they got the job? How did they?
All
How
the
did they
time.
get the job? And see, they don't speak on that, but they want to cast doubt. So when we were in college, oh, you must have got in because of affirmative action. Oh, I'm sorry, whole bunch of y'all got into school because your mama was white and your daddy was white, and we weren't allowed to even go to these schools. But see, that's not how they want to view it. So what you now have is a well-funded, well-orchestrated attack on all of this. Christopher Rufo, a conservative who led the fight against critical race theory. This is literally what he tweeted, Stephen. And this is what he said. The goal is to have the public read something crazy in the newspaper and immediately think critical race theory. We have decodified the term and will recodify it to annex the entire range of cultural constructions that are unpopular with Americans. Now, that was his initial tweet. He later said that we have successfully frozen their brand, critical race theory, into the public conversation and are steadily driving up negative perceptions. We will eventually turn it toxic as we put all of the various cultural insanities under that brand category. So they went from critical race theory, remember that was in 2021,
right,
to drive the 2022 midterms. Now it's DEI. But it's all under the same banner because they want to brand anything that has been helpful for African Americans and others to succeed in this society as, race-based, not qualified, DEI, CRT, because it's all designed to scare white people because they are moving towards become a minority in this country.
And obviously, you know, the numbers prove it from the standpoint that once upon a time, the white population in America was in the high 80s, obviously is dipped, and now it's at approximately at 60% and lowering. We're seeing more minorities, more Hispanics coming into the vote, into the country, obviously, and obviously that there's votes to take into consideration and who's going to manipulate the vote. I get what you're saying loud and clear, and obviously that just buffers your point. But let me play devil's advocate for Candace Owens in this regard. Looking at these statistics, commercial aviation pilot stats. That's what I'm reading from Roland Martin. 3.4% of U.S. airline pilots are black, 2.2% are of Asian descent, 0.5% are Hispanic or Latino, and women make up just 4.6%. So considering the scarcity of those numbers, right, combined with Candace Owens articulating that the head of United Airlines talked about making sure that diversity is a critical element of our hiring process. Does she not have a point in any way?
No.
Okay.
There's no point.
Why not?
Because again, what their goal is say, oh, see this diversity thing? Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's awful. Well, let's roll this thing back. If you took all those numbers together, about 80+% of all pilots in America are white.
Yeah.
We are white. Are white. They're white men.
Right.
So you're sitting there going, wait a minute. So because here's the whole deal. So now all of a sudden, we get a few women, a few black people, a few Latino people, a few Asian, a few Native Americans go, see, they're not qualified. I don't want to fly with them. I want to fly with them. But they don't question. See, this is the key. They don't question the qualifications of white men. They automatically assume, they must be qualified. And so it's utter nonsense. What you really have, and you don't know this because of media, you have individuals who are now saying, hey, we can't keep going to the old talent pool to find folk. We got to go to new places. And what's interesting is this here. Who has been the most ardent supporter of diversity, equity, inclusion? The United States military. When the Supreme Court was dealing with the affirmative action case, the military wrote a number of briefs stating that it is in the national security interest of America. And guess what happened? The Supreme Court ruled that the academies, the military academies, can continue the affirmative action, but not other public colleges and universities. So America, what you're saying is you want black bodies, you want Hispanic bodies, Asian American bodies, Native American bodies. You want people of color, you want our bodies for war, but you want to question it for corporate America, for media, and education and all of this. But here's something also that's critical, Stephen.
Okay.
And this is what's freaking the white folks out. And I'm being especially these conservative folks. The Black Lives Matter movement, in the wake of the George Floyd death, we had massive protests across the world. That was the first time in American history that a black movement, and I'm saying that because there were many others involved,
Okay.
that a black movement, a majority of Americans supported it. You know what you had, Stephen? You had young white folks and Latinos, others who were demanding action and demanding change. That's what's scaring them. And so now it's, oh, no, we gotta change this thing, because we can't have these non-minority folks all of a sudden standing up for this. So we now gotta shift the conversation. And that's exactly what America has always done. Always.
The Black Eagle, Joe Madison, says it best. He talked about cultural conditioning. And the reason why I bring those two words up is because I'm thinking about somebody like a Candace Owens, a black woman, saying what she said, understanding that she herself is an accomplished individual. And because she's accomplished, are people to assume if you took her words, people would use that as a license to dilute her accomplishments, to dilute her qualifications. And yet that seems to be something that really was not embraced by her. Roland Martin, how do you explain it? How do you explain that?
It's called a grift game, brother. It's a grift game. We know the grift game. You have always had certain black folks who are like, yo, I can get paid by these folks by hating on black people. Stephen, I've had people over the years come to me and say, Roland, come to our side. And I'm going, hell no. Right. Because my side is humanity. It's a grift game. And so Candace is sitting here. The easiest people to get money from, and I'm just being frank, the easiest people are white conservatives. You know why? Because they love hearing a black person like Candace. So, man, they'll sit here and like, yo, we'll roll the money out. But see, Candace is not smart. First of all, the girl dropped out of college. Here's why she's not smart.
I ain't gonna say she ain't smart though.
No. Here's why I'm gonna say she's not smart. She's smart because she know the grift game. But and the reason I'm saying she's not smart, black conservatives who know her, who pull her aside and have told her, you need to get better educated on the issues. And so she knows who they are. But here's why she's not smart. When she's attacking women, saying, I see a woman pilot, I'm not going to fly. So you see a woman engineer, are you not going to walk into a building? If you see a woman architect, are you not going to question that facility? If you see a woman head of security, are you going to question the security? What Candace also clearly doesn't understand, and many of these other different people, is that the reason we have today women who've been ascending is because of Title IX. The problem is most people think Title IX was about sports. It wasn't. It was to open the professional schools to women who were getting federal dollars. Now remember, you then ask, well, where's Title IX come from? It's a provision of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Follow me here. I'm going somewhere.
I'm following you.
Black people fought to get the 1964 Civil Rights Act. If you were disabled and you love the 1996 American with Disabilities Act, you better thank black people, because the American with Disabilities Act was passed as a result of a provision of the 64 Civil Rights Act. If you are Korean or Chinese and you get to vote in your native language, thank black people, because that's the 1965 Voting Rights Act. When you look at now housing and you can live anywhere you want to, thank black people, because that was a 1968 Civil Rights Act known as the Housing Act. If you are gay and lesbian, and you gay marriage, guess what? That's the 14th Amendment, Equal Protection Clause, one of the 3 Reconstruction Amendments, which was designed after the Civil War to also benefit African Americans. And so what Candace is by saying is now questioning women pilots. Well, let's not question all women. Well, what are you saying, Candace? Oh, you're the exception, but not everybody else. This is all about these fragile white men who can't handle the fact they now got to compete, Stephen. They got to compete. You and I, we know how we were raised. We were told you got to be twice as better.
To get half as much. To get half as much.
And the problem they have now is we are rolling up saying, no. We want fairness. Yes, we want equity. We want inclusion. We want a seat at the table. And many of them have been riding high for centuries, decades, making money, doing well. And
but
all
Roland,
of a sudden they freaking out, brother.
But Roland, I get what you're saying, but we've seen plenty of corporations dilute, if not flat out eradicate their DEI programs. Based on what you're saying, we were moving in a forward direction, but all of a sudden, especially in the aftermath of the George Floyd murder.
Absolutely.
But since that time, it's diluted to some degree. They've been eradicating DEI programs, DEI personnel. What's up with that?
And here's why.
Okay.
This right here, W.B. Du Bois' book, Black Reconstruction in America. This right here is Eric Foner's book, Reconstruction America's Unfinished Business. In the history of America, Black success has always been followed by white backlash. Reconstruction, 10 to 12 years, 1865. You all of a sudden go to the 1876 election, contested, the Great Compromise of 1877, now put into place, Jim Crow, which lasted 92 years. Then all of a sudden, you go forward to the second Reconstruction, which was the Black Freedom Movement. That lasted 13 years, beginning on December 1st, 1955, going through King's assassination. What then happened? It's in the data. Okay, look, y'all can go to restaurants now. Y'all can go to hotels now. Y'all can vote now. Can we be done with this stuff? And so, George Floyd, I was telling everybody, folks, this third Reconstruction needs to last a minimum of 20 years, and you got to address the money. Because in the first one, the money wasn't addressed. That was 40 acres and a mule. In the second one, money wasn't addressed. If you look at the last 5 years of King's life, he was focused on the money. Coretta Scott King said they killed my Martin when he started talking about the money.
That's right.
Now, all of a sudden, the George Floyd piece, corporations announced 40, 50, 60 billion dollars in commitments. Many of them have not done it. But you get the white backlash. It's like Trump is right there, all of the MAGA folks. And so, hold up, what's going on? You know, they've gotten enough. And so now they're pulling back because of that white fear and, well, I don't want to take this side out. You got to have corporate leaders who have the guts to say, we cannot have a future if we are not appealing to all of America and not just white America.
I'm talking to not only an outstanding host, Roland Martin, Unfiltered, more than 1.2 million subscribers, by the way. Major props to you for that. But I'm talking to a friend, somebody that I respect, that I know is far more knowledgeable on these subjects than I am. You brought up how they're fearful of this backlash. Perhaps that explains the following that Trump has. But in the same breath, what I would ask you is this. Shouldn't the fear reside with folks, whether they be on the left, whether they be on minority communities, et cetera, when we look at the momentum being gained by the former president who's got 4 indictments against him, 91 counts. He could absolutely positively end up being a convicted felon and still being in the White House, which says something to me about the state of this country. So when you talk about the fear they may have, what about the fear we should have?
Well, here's the deal. Remember, he won following 8 years of Obama. He was the white backlash to 8 years of Obama. In my book, White Fear, I've been fixated on this since 2009 because there was a study there was a poll that was taken, Stephen. And the question was asked, are you optimistic about the future of America for your children? Every group, Black, Latino, Asian American, Native American, majority said yes. Only one group was less than a majority, white America. September 2016, the question was asked, another poll, another survey. Are you optimistic about the future of America economically for the next 10 years? Black people, lowest wealth, highest optimism. Latinos, second lowest wealth, highest optimism. Guess who has the highest wealth in America? White people. Guess who had the lowest optimism? White America. So now you got to go behind that and say, wait, hold up. How y'all got the highest wealth, but you got the least optimism? It is because the winds are shifting. They don't control everything. And so what Trump does, Trump comes in, says what he wants. He's able to pull the covers back. And so, y'all can say what y'all want too. There used to be a penalty for dancing with neo-Nazis and white supremacists. Now they're welcome. Remember, Trump had lunch with one of them at Mar-a-Lago. You got white nationalists who are members of Congress right now who speak at white nationalist conferences. Now there's no longer a penalty on the Republican side. But this issue we're talking about, Stephen A., is not left-right because you got some white liberals who got a problem with black advancement. You got some white liberals who got a problem with DEI for the very same reason. And so when you step back, and this is what a Candace Owens won't do, this is what a Charlie Kirk won't do, you step back and go, wait a minute, 90% of the people who are leading ad agencies, where they represent $340 billion annually, are white. You look at the CEOs in America. You look at the people hell is sitting in Congress. This notion that, oh my God, they're just taking over. We get 1-2 jobs, they start freaking out. And so what we have to understand now is you are not going to have an America where one group has all the power and the money and the rest of us don't. You know what that's also called? South Africa, in the wake of apartheid.
Yeah.
And so the battle that we're dealing with right now is we need intestinal fortitude from political leaders, from corporate leaders, and we also need all of those people, the millions of people, the millions of black people and white people, Latinos and Asian, Native Americans who were out there protesting in the aftermath of George Floyd's death. We got to let them know, baby,
It's just getting started. It's not finished.
That wasn't no 1-2 month thing.
Yeah.
You got to be in this fight for the long haul. So you got to understand the battle.
Right.
See, they were just showing up for the moment.
Right.
No, moment and movement are two different things. This is a battle that we are in the middle of right now, and it is not going away.
White Fear, that is the title of your book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. We will definitely get into a lot of this as the weeks and the months progress. Roland Martin, obviously I'm gonna have you back on. I really, really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the show, man. Thank you so much, my brother.
I appreciate it.
Keep doing what you're doing. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it.
The one and only Roland Martin right here with Stephen A. on the Stephen A. Smith Show, courtesy of YouTube.